The opinions on this podcast are those of the individuals. They do not reflect any official view of the United Steelworkers, USW, Local 105, or its officers or sub-board members for officers. From the banks of the mighty Mississippi, this is Steel Revolution. Steel Revolution.
All right, it's time to go. Welcome to Steel Revolution number 3. My name is Roy Hutt. Member. I like how you're trying to jump in and talk. See, we bagged on him for not talking in one episode. Now he's ready to go.
57 words. And I'm Mike Nicholas.
Sean doesn't have a mic, but he'd like to thank Sean for all of his hard work. Where the magic happens, I believe, is what he said.
Yep.
Is where he works. So the question is why do a podcast? And was looking at something on Facebook. Tom Morello was doing an interview with Rolling Stone and said that all music is political. And I'm like, what the fuck? What's that supposed to mean? And he goes on to say that you have a chance to use you can use your voice and talk about what's going on in the world, politics, whatnot, or you could put out Mike's favorite music like Justin Bieber, and you can put that out.
I said, let me put my drugs away.
Is that recording?
Fuck off.
Can you name? I couldn't name a song of his, Mike. Can you name one?
I have girls, so I can, and I can see by the way Sean's looking, he can definitely name them.
I hate to admit it, in a trivia night though, like they had nothing but like boy band questions, and I almost got every one of them right. But I was helping the team.
Why does that not surprise me, Roy?
All right, going into local news, as in local 105 news updates. That we are this podcast is one of many forms of ways we try to communicate to our members. Cat teams are going to be up and going again, and we got the Forerunner Facebook and this podcast and this podcast Facebook page. And as a reminder, if you can look in the Forerunner for more information on this, but please start wearing your green shirts on Fridays. This local in the community has done several great things in the community, helping out at King's Harvest. Helping out at Peace in the Park and the Reese Morgan Basketball Jamboree. Nick's Gen had a golf tournament raising money for Transitions Mental Health. And then also doing several events for the homeless vets and helping out there.
Don't forget to buy your quilt tickets and your Cubs cards tickets before the middle of July.
All right, moving on to the actual local area. In local news, Muscatine Mayor Dana Broderson having problems with the city council. Apparently, she is a Democrat. The council is Republicans, and they want to take away her executive duties to appoint people such as the city boards, commissions, including things like fire chief, city administrator, so on and so forth.
She needs to be able to appoint them, and then they can vote on them. I just don't get why they're trying to take that away from her.
My guess is my family member, my brother, couldn't get a job because they weren't her pick, so now we're going to take those duties away. And also, by the way, you got to keep your door open because we don't want you to have any private phone calls. And also... Yeah, I thought I had another one with that, but that was it.
But it's basic. She can appoint it, and they can discuss it, they can vote on it, they can talk about it. But making all these rules up just to hold her hands behind her back so she can't do anything, she's going to be ineffective.
Right, probably exactly what they want. I'm guessing there is a lot of Republican mayors in the Republican council, and they got to do whatever they wanted. Now the city has appointed a Democrat, and they don't want to work with her. Other local news, was watching the local news, and speaking of earlier, our golf tournament that benefited Transitions Mental Health, they were in the news. They do a lot of what's called mental health court. So rather than send somebody with a mental health issue to jail, they put them in a program, If they successfully complete the program, their record is expunged, and they go on to be a productive member of society and a good member of our community. The Iowa side of the river did not have this, but with help from people at Transitions, they are starting that on the Iowa side of the river. So, just reinforces why we help out that charity.
It's needed on both sides of the river.
And as we're talking about mental health in Iowa, good old Governor Braindead has made Iowa dead last in rankings for mental health beds in the country.
That's crazy.
What that means is there is 64 state beds for mental health patients. That is equal to 2 for every 100,000, which 60% of those are already in use, leaving 26 beds available for 1.3 million Iowans. 2 years ago, also, Governor Braindead shut down 2 mental health institutes in Mount Pleasant and Clarion,
Yep.
in which 3 deaths happened after those people were moved out of those institutions. And last month, 15 psych beds for children at the state's Mental Health Institute in Independence were taken away. They said, and the governor said, there's no patients being treated at those places, but administration for that had already stopped admitting patients. Currently, there's 731 beds, public and private, available for 123,000 patients. Speaking of which, did you happen to see the governor talking about Trump?
Yeah, I did.
He honestly looks like he is a corpse up there talking. I mean, the makeup, I think he had to have like a mortician do his makeup.
It looked like it was just caked on there.
Moving on to Illinois, the budget impasse has caused problems or chaos within the public universities, mental health again, social services, and the state is unable to pay their water and power bill for prisons and state facilities.
So let's just keep going. I mean, the heads of both the Democratic and Republican parties said they were going to meet every single Wednesday till they got this figured out. Then both parties were going to pull each other together to get a vote. We'd have a vote by the end of June. Well, we're at the end of June, and we have met for a total of 0 Wednesdays. Nobody wants to come together. Nobody wants to meet. Nobody wants to vote. And I think Rauner loves it. He loves this stuff. And he's going around the state spending tax dollars to tell everybody how worthless the Democrats are.
Is it no work Wednesdays?
That's exactly what it is, and that's the only day they're supposed to work is Wednesdays. So
to put that into the taxes, so the governor wants I guess the way Illinois is set up is a high service, low tax state. The income tax for people was 5, got drawn back to 3.75%, which leaves a $5 billion hole in the budget, which to me is, if it's fair and it's across the board, you're getting revenue in. Obviously, it works out better for the wealthiest of people, which is probably why the current governor wants it. Also, Rauner had went on in articles to say that he favors spending cuts and revenue increases coupled with pro-business, union-weakening agenda, protecting our taxpayers and economy, or what that means is I'm going to protect my wealthy friends and the middle class, and everybody can foot the bill.
Yeah, the middle class, the older generation, the kids, the veterans, everybody else is going to foot the bill and pay for his crap.
Other things they're targeting is, of course, the public pensions, which I'm going to say that, like we said before in this podcast, I believe, it was a promise. You can't pull the rug out from underneath these people that are retired. Our government should be filled with people that are public servants there the government should be there to help the public. And what you see in these, I think all throughout this podcast is they're there to serve themselves and their wealthy friends or whoever gave them corporate donations to their campaign, and that's the only people they're interested in helping. And the rest of the public can go get fucked.
Yep, that's basically the way he operates and all his buddies operate. And he's making the people of Illinois think it's the Democrats and Madigan that are the problem, when he's the problem.
Sticking with news coming out of Iowa, Representative Steve King came out this, I believe it was this past week, believes that Harriet Tubman's face on the $20 bill is racist and sexist. He blamed liberal activism by Obama for attempting to divide the country.
That's kind of ironic. Racist? I wonder what he's doing.
So he went on to pull a $20 bill out of his pocket and say, it's not about Harriet Tubman, it's about keeping the picture on the $20 bill. King said Tuesday evening, like I said, pulling out a $20 bill out of his pocket and pointing at President Andrew Jackson. Why would you want to change that? I'm a conservative and I like to keep what we have. So don't recognize anybody else.
Yeah, so let's not recognize somebody else. Let's keep an old white guy on there, but I'm not racist.
Yeah. I know I can't really, you can't really say that I don't care who's on it as long as it spins, but I mean, you can't say that because then who knows, they'd probably put David Duke on there. That'd probably be Trump. Trump would be able to get David Duke on there, but
no, if it were Trump would put himself on there. So
that's true. But yeah, I mean, it's about time. You got somebody that's a leader in civil rights and stood up for something. I mean, come on, let's get somebody else besides just a old white guy on there. Moving on to more national news, but we'll keep the racism going. Rick Tyler, a restaurant owner in Polk County, Tennessee, running for Tennessee's 3rd congressional district, had a billboard that said, "Make America White Again."
Wow.
Later was told to put it down. I believe they did take that down. But in reading an article about this, some of the slogans that got shot down was "Fight Federal Tyranny, Stop the Muslim Invasion." And then another one that said, "Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be miscongenitors." I'd never even have heard this, I'm happy to say, but I guess it's a new buzzword referring to interracial marriage, couples, interracial relationships.
I have no words for that. What a moron. I don't... If I were putting a billboard up and this guy wanted to rent my services, how could you even morally put that billboard up anywhere? I don't get it, but the Republican Party, they're not racist. They're not bigots. I don't get it.
Well, the owner of the billboard was probably a racist to the company, and then he probably gave him a discount. So, in other big news that I can't believe wasn't a big issue, and you didn't hear much about it, was the Republicans' new health care plan. They've tried to shoot down Obamacare for so long. They came out with a new plan that raised the age for Medicare from 65 to 67.
Well, this is new for them, though, because for the last, 4, 5, 6 years, all they've done is try to shoot his plan down. At least now we're coming up with a new plan. As shitty as it is, they're coming up with something different.
A new plan with corporate backing, I imagine, and it's it's work until you die.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. You're not ever going to get to retire because you're going to be dead.
I'm going to keep your wages low so then you can work forever and never get ahead, and then you'll die.
Yep.
In other news, rising GOP star Mia Love, representative from Utah, is not going to the party convention and instead going to Israel. So the Trump effect on the Republican Party keeps on rolling.
It's amazing.
All right, as we move into more of the presidential race, Clinton gets more endorsements from top executives of companies and some top Republicans. Got the list in front of us. I do see that one of the CEOs is from Corning, in which gave her almost $500,000. So if you give her $500,000, I would hope you would support her. On Clinton's list, Citigroup, almost $1 million. Goldman Sachs, a little over $86,000. J.P. Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Time Warner, Microsoft, all of these donating to her campaign, and also a couple Republicans that came out in support of Clinton. Hank Paulson, Republican Treasury Secretary during the 2008 financial crisis. Remember his name because it'll be coming back later in the show. Moving on, more presidential news as Trump. Speaking about him, prominent conservative Pulitzer Prize winning columnist George Will announces that he will leave the Republican Party due to Trump, declaring, "This is not my party."
This isn't the end of this either. You're going to see a lot more of this in the future. Just talked about this earlier today. I think before this is all done, you're going to see Trump as the only Republican left. And it's really not the Republican Party anymore either.
I want to take a bet on whether or not he just throws this in as close as he can. Hopefully gets past the Republican convention and just bombs and throws it. Either he did it just to make some money, or he's actually in on it with Hillary and he wants to give it to her, so he's going to really throw it more than he's obviously been. You would think he's throwing it now.
I think you're right, but I think it's all about publicity for him. That's all it's ever been for him.
Other Trump news since our last show, NRA does not even back up his statement that it would be a beautiful thing if all the club goers in Orlando all had guns, citing that the one thing that the NRA doesn't want is a bunch of drunks to have guns, but it's okay if you're a terrorist to have guns because, damn it, you're in America. Trump's golf course will no longer host the British Open due to his bigoted remarks. So, bravo to those guys over there taking a stand.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Scotland and over there, Trump was over there at his golf course, in which he mentioned that the Brexit was a good thing, and it was a good thing because the pound would be not worth as much, and more Americans can come over there and spend money at his golf course. Again, proving that he is only in this for himself.
It's about the money for him. It's only about the money, and it's always been about the money. He doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about anything else but what goes in his pocket.
And in case you missed it too, another one that wasn't publicized, and I can't get why this wasn't all over the news, that a comedian went up there, got caught by the Secret Service, had these red golf balls with swastika labels on them, and then dumped them all out in front of Trump at his press conference. And I can't, this corporate media does not get the good stories out.
It's starting to creep in a little bit. If you look at the HuffPost, they've got a lot of pictures of it all over the internet now, of all the golf balls laying in front of him speaking.
Yeah, take it from us. We will be your union-backed news source, and we'll try to pass this on to you guys. Also in there, I didn't even forgot it in my notes, but if you watched that houses around the golf course all raised Mexican flags in protest to Trump, that Trump tried to get their land out from underneath them to do more with his golf courses. They refused. So their response was to put up Mexican flags.
Yeah, I love that. You're seeing more and more pictures of that. But did you also see? I believe it was last Tuesday. Trump had a speech, I believe somewhere down south, where he talked about not only his wall going up at the Mexican border, he talked about a wall going up at the Canadian border to keep those Canadians out. The guy just gets more and more moronic every time he stands up and speaks.
I feel safe in saying the Canadians would welcome that if Trump's president.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm sure they would.
They need some sort of blocker to keep us out. And I almost forgot about this. Didn't put it in, but luckily I had it saved in my Facebook. But so it says, "Why we love Scotland." This must be quotes from actual Scottish people talking about Trump. And here's a quote calling him butt plug face, toupeed fuck trumpet, cock wobble, mangled apricot hell beast, witless fucking cocksplat. No, that's a bad one. Maybe I should skip that one.
What do you mean
Ignorant
bad compared to what you...
ignorant fuck muppet, tiny fingered Cheeto faced ferret wearing shit goblin. That's a good one. And there's one that if you can find it on Facebook, go ahead and find it. It's pretty bad. I think I'll due to us not being on iTunes yet, I don't think I should say it.
So the one you left out was the bad one. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this one.
All right, and due to all this, I think it's safe to say this is why Clinton, in some polls, has a double-digit lead, in which I am now just totally uncertain on where I thought that Trump might get it, and then now I'm back to the other side thinking there's no way he's gonna definitely do enough to not win.
Well, what I saw yesterday was 12 points. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I think that was an ABC poll, and the same poll from about a month ago was at it was a 14-point swing. It had Trump 2 points in the lead, and now she's 12 points in the lead. So it's only going to keep going.
Which brings us back to Bernie Sanders. I think it was trying to get my weeks are all running together. Last week he came out to say that he would probably vote for Hillary Clinton, so we're seeing the downward slide as it seems like Sanders is backing out of the race, even though he's going to continue to the convention, hopefully push his issues that a lot of people wanted, including a lot of the steel workers that I know. Pushing into that party platform a $15 minimum wage, breaking up the big banks, expanding Social Security, which from the article I read was some of the wins that he did have in pushing the platform. However, did not have a win for language that said that they were opposed to the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which supposedly Clinton is against now, but was for, but is now against, as you'll hear that the only two people that I'll say that ever brought this up was Trump and Bernie Sanders. So the only good thing Trump did was bring this out to the spotlight.
And I believe in her call and her letter, when the steelworkers endorsed her, she did come out and say she's against the TPP. So, yeah.
I hope so too, but I would take another bet on she flip-flops.
I agree
on that one. So again, I think, good old America missed out on a great opportunity to put a true public servant in the White House, somebody that's been with, you name it, civil rights movement, the poor, the middle class. He's been there, held the same message, foreseen a lot of the problems that we had with our financial collapse, and we really missed out. Obviously, I guess we weren't ready, or some of us weren't ready for him and wanted the status quo.
Well, like you said, his message hasn't changed. He hasn't flip-flopped on anything. He's been talking the same talk for 20 to 30 years.
And now, you got the lesser of two evils, and, Clinton. Hopefully she comes around. Hopefully she moves more towards a being a progressive. We'll see. So you have that. At least that's my view. You have the lesser of two evils, and what she gets, which is more of the same on the Democratic side, more of the Democratic machine, or you can just burn the whole fucking country to the ground and have Trump here and hope that we can rise from the ashes. In saying that Steel Megaphone did a nice little run of Sanders clips down through the years. Did Steel 1, which Sean will plug in after I'm done talking. That will be seamless with almost no interruptions because Sean's getting good at what he does.
If you ever get done talking.
Damn it, now I don't know where I was going to go with that. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
But anyway, brings up Hank Paulson, which he, like I said, was the. Let me look at my notes. Let me get his title right. I would not want to get it wrong.
The Republican Treasury Secretary.
Yep, during the 2008 financial crisis, and Sean will play the video of him getting grilled by Bernie Sanders. Back after the break.
Here's the next clip. Listen to Bernie as he goes after Hank Paulson, the U.S. Treasury Secretary. This is in 2007, right before the collapse. And for those of you that don't know, Hank Paulson, a former chair of Goldman Sachs, and that's the major zombie bank at the center of the 2008 collapse. And during that big bailout and recovery, Goldman Sachs receives a stunning $12.9 billion from the U.S. Treasury, which Hank Paulson now runs.
That's a good thinking on his part, eh?
Yeah, don't watch the hand, like you said, Conlon. Follow the money. And here we go, Goldman Sachs people on rotation in the U.S. Treasury. Bernie going after Paulson. This is right before the collapse, right before.
It seems to me, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Secretary, that sometimes here in D.C. we get a little bit isolated from reality. You made a statement a moment ago, this is a paraphrase, that, quote, this is a marvelous thing, this American economy, roughly speaking. Now, I have to say, I think that if millions of people all over America were listening to your statement, people who had fallen into poverty, people who today are working longer hours for lower wages than used to be the case, maybe one of the 6 million Americans who lost their health insurance, maybe one of the millions of workers who were promised a pension, but that pension was reneged, taken away from them, maybe a mother who is desperately seeking affordable child care in her community as she goes out to work 40 or 50 hours a week to earn enough money to take care of her family. You know what she would say? Sir, what world are you living in? And that maybe we're hanging around with folks in the country clubs and CEOs of large corporations for whom this economy is a very, very a very marvelous thing, to use your word, but it is not a marvelous thing for the middle class. And we've got to get our act together. The fact is, and I think all of the evidence suggests this, that the middle class is shrinking. When you and I were growing up, the expectation was that one breadwinner in a family, usually the men back in those days, could work 40 hours a week and earn enough money to provide for the family. One person, 40 hours a week. How many people, Mr. Chairman, do we know in America today, middle-class families, where one person is working 40 hours a week? Quite the contrary. The vast majority of middle-class families, husband and wife are working, and it is not uncommon for them to be working more than 40 hours a week. In fact, in this marvelous economy that you're talking about, you may or may not know that in the United States, our people work the longest hours than in any other industrialized country. I believe a few years ago we surpassed the Japanese, who also work very long hours. How is this a marvelous economy? Now, my question to you, and I'm a little bit blunter than my good friend from Rhode Island, you see, I look at what is going on having to do a lot with one word, and that is greed. Frankly, I do not believe that the Bush administration is trying to help all of the people. Don't believe that at all. I think you guys work day and night to help the people on top, and I think you turn your backs on middle-income people, working people, and low-income people. Sir, The United States is the only nation in the industrialized world that does not have a national health care program. The only one, many major country. In your judgment, should health care be a right of all people, as in fact is the case in every other major country on earth?
You know, I feel very strongly we need to work toward a system where everyone has got access to affordable health care. But to me, that isn't, it isn't a nationalized program.
Well, not nationalized, but every other country has said that as a right of citizenship, people should have health care. We are the only one in the industrialized world that does not. And I'm hearing you say that you don't think that that should be the case. Let me ask you another question. We have heard a lot of discussion about Social Security. In my view, Medicare is a very serious problem. I don't think Social Security is. Right now, Bill Gates and the wealthiest people in this country contribute into the Social Security system the same amount of money as somebody who makes $94,000 a year, roughly speaking. My understanding is that if you simply lift the cap and you said to the wealthiest people in this country, people who by and large their income has soared in recent years, if you lift that cap as we have done with Medicare and ask them to contribute proportionally into the system, we would not have a Social Security problem. Now, given the fact that the wealthiest people in this country have seen huge increases in their income in recent years, why should not they be asked to contribute more into the Social Security system so that we can solve that problem and make sure that Social Security is vibrant and strong for the next 75 years?
Senator, you could also do that by taking a progressive approach to benefits. You know, so...
Well, you could.
Of course you could.
You could, but this, I think, would be the simpler way. And if you want to keep Social Security as a universal system protecting all people, I frankly think that Bill Gates, not that he needs it, is entitled to Social Security too. And once you start doing away with the universality, you can eventually make it into a welfare program, which is not a good idea.
Well, I didn't suggest doing away with universality. I suggested progressivity.
Should we lift the cap and solve the Social Security problem by asking the wealthy to contribute more into the system?
That wouldn't be my suggestion.
Why? Don't you think it's fair that at a time when the wealthiest people have never had it so good, and the gap between the rich and the poor is going wide, that simply lifting that cap can solve the problem?
I think there are, you know, I think you and I are not going to solve the discussion. There's a situation right here at a public hearing. Maybe you'll be one of those who comes to the table, and that will be your idea.
Okay. Let me go back to an issue that I feel very strongly about, that as the middle class declines, and as you see husbands and wives out working, we see in the budget that the president submitted a program which would reduce the number of children receiving child care assistance by 300,000. At the same time as the budget provides $739 billion in tax breaks to households with incomes exceeding $1 million. In addition, your budget asked veterans of this country to pay more for their health care. Can you explain to me the morality of cutting back on child care, asking veterans to pay more for their health care at the same time as we sustain huge tax breaks for billionaires? What's the morality of that?
I see you've got a point of view, and I would suggest that when Senator Leavitt is here, Secretary Leavitt is talking about the health care program, maybe he can go into the details of that with you.
You see, I think, let me conclude, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the extra time. We're not just talking about economics, we're talking about a moral perspective. We hear a lot about moral values. Let me be very clear. You don't give tax breaks to billionaires as veterans to pay more for their health care and drive them off of health care, cut back on child care, cut back on Head Start. To me, those are not moral values. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I just say one thing that I think you and I can agree on, which is when I said it's a marvelous economy, what I mean is this is an economy that makes it's better for virtually everyone than we would have if the economy, if it were in a no growth or a slow growth economy. I didn't mean to suggest this is an economy that's a very strong economy in terms of jobs that are being created, inflation, etc. I didn't mean to suggest that there aren't some people in this economy that we would all like to see do better. And so I'm very aware of the what's going on with income distribution, and I'm very focused on the average worker and people at the bottom. And so I look forward to talking to you.
Well, I hope that we can continue this discussion. Thank you very much.
Back after the break. Shifting more towards world news. Another news story that has not been in the news a lot is the situation happening in France. Huge protests over labor reform bills. Calling for right now, they got a 35-hour work week. They want to increase that. Firms given greater freedom to reduce pay. Another law that allows for laying off workers. That's I guess laying off of workers is highly regulated in France. The theory behind it is, well, we can hire more people at one time when times are good if we know we can lay them off in the future. Another one, giving employers more leeway to negotiate holidays, special leave such as maternity and others for getting married, which is currently heavily regulated in France.
So this just pisses all over your contract then. I mean, if my contract says one thing, but my employer can negotiate with my union from week to week on what the hours are, or what the next holiday is, or if they're going to cancel a holiday, or maybe change the maternity leave because business has gone up, what would that do to my contract? This is just ridiculous.
Not only that, and if you watch the movie Where to Invade Next by Michael Moore, whether you like him or not, I think it would be a good movie to watch, just so you could see how other countries deal with stuff, the other things that they have that are so good. So your 35-hour work week, you think about that, and a lot of people right now, your initial reaction is going to be, well, fuck them, we have to work 60 hours a week to make it, and it's not only me, it's me and my wife.
Yeah.
But here's the deal: you got to think about what's best for people, what's best for their family life, and only working 35 hours a week gives you more time at home, and that's what's important.
I agree, but if these companies over there are allowed to reduce pay on somebody that's working 35 hours, they're going to be in the same boat we are and want to work more.
Right. I mean, it's more of like what we're saying. I mean, it's more of how much less can we do for people. We're not in it for the people. You get firms given greater freedom to reduce pay, and I mean, it's okay. Your CEOs, your shareholders are going to get some more money, and meanwhile, the people working aren't going to get any money, and then they can't afford to buy shit.
But what kills me is you're going to start negotiating the holidays too. So I can plan something with my family, and then what's that mean? So a month before, you're going to come tell me, we're going to have to work. That's not a holiday anymore. Sorry. I just don't get it. I don't get how that doesn't piss all over these people's contracts.
Yeah, when you think about Europe though, and I know Mike, you watched that movie, that they get to get all this time off, and they get all this time to recoup, and they're happier. So when they say give employers more of a leeway, it's obviously it's going to take less of their time away. I mean, when you look at this, you got to look at it as a very pro company, and with just having these facts, it'd be easy to figure out that they want, I can't remember, it was Italy in that movie that they get 3 weeks or something if they get married, or something. It was crazy compared to here. And when they talk about that getting married here, France probably has something similar, and it's obvious they want to take less away. They want you there working. They don't want you out on vacation spending time with your family. The other one's being able to lay workers off. I mean, it's great to have, you got your job, you're there, whether it's hiring a bunch of people at one time just to let them go. Nobody likes that, but here they want to put laws in there. So France has these stricter laws about how many people you can hire to make sure they have their jobs. So you're not, like some of the companies even in our area where you see a rash of people get hired and we're just going to lay them off when we're ready to lay them off.
Or when the orders downturn, they just get rid of them. Right.
I mean, to me, that's you have a better obligation to the employee, and you're treating them better by hiring who you need, and they know they got a job.
Yep.
So again, this is in huge protests, clashes with police. It's a huge deal over there, in which is not getting a whole lot of media coverage. Again, a little bit about the British exit of the European Union. It was on the news that it costs the average retiree or the average 401k account $3,000.
Yeah, I saw that this morning as well.
But it's good for Trump and his golf course.
So, it is good for Trump. And then I also saw all the world markets lost on average 3 to 5% as well in the 2 days following this. So, but Trump loves it.
More from outside the U.S., Mexico teachers are on strike. Get met with, well, not really the teachers, because the teachers is in a southern state, but big protest in Mexico City, being met with 4,000 police officers as the protesters take to the street of Mexico City.
Did you see what they did to the teachers that crossed the picket lines and went in to teach?
No, I did not see that.
They were publicly shaming them. These women that had long, dark hair, they were shaving their heads in front of everybody, which you could tell they were hating it, but everybody was cheering them on as they were doing it. And interviewed a couple of these teachers and said they never think about doing that ever again. Something as simple as shaving their heads.
So before, when this all got started, and when it wasn't really, I don't think it was hitting on the media outlets, wasn't on Facebook, was that 2 union leaders of the teachers union got brought up on corruption charges, and anybody in the steelworkers would say this sounds familiar, as you can think about Napoleon Gomez, who the government was after, union leader, and who had to seek had to go to Canada just to get away. So that was part of it. By the way, 12 people in these protests have died so far. They're protesting reforms to teachers' labor rights, and which seeks to privatize a public good. So their schools must be more public down there. And this is just another way to privatize it, a lot like what's going on in the U.S. A lot like what's going on in the U.S. with governors and that trying to
I threw you off again, didn't I?
Yeah, you threw me off. That and Sean threw me off. Trying to defund the public education, trying to make it where it's not as good, and then therefore they can ship it off into private hands, into charter schools to most likely, if you look it up, they're campaign donors.
Well, and they're saying that these public schools cost them too much and making the people believe it. So,
again, to go along with one person described down there that it is important to have free public education. So they are given food, shelter, place to sleep, education, and in exchange for this, they have to give back to society with workshops and organizing. All in all, good for the community, good for the people. Good for the public. Tom Donahue says Clinton will support TPP after election.
I'm just waiting. We've been talking all day about her flip-flopping. She promised us that she wouldn't support it, so we'll see what she's going to do.
Yep, good old Chamber of Commerce helping out Americans with jobs. Other news, TransCanada files $15 billion NAFTA claim over the U.S. rejection of the Keystone Pipeline. If you guys are not familiar with these trade deals, it gives other countries the right to sue our government for their loss of profits, in which now TransCanada is suing us. I believe it was a Mexican tuna supplier fishing company that sued us too before with, I think that was the WOC or WTO.
WTO, yeah.
Is what that one was in, and because of the labels that we had that it was dolphin safe, and they sued to get that taken away because it would cost them profits. You also have a couple of things that I learned in classes down in leadership when we had somebody that's way more educated on trade than I am. There was a Mexican company that wanted to process toxic waste, and the Mexican government said, no, you're not going to do it there. You're not going to do it. Well, then I believe it was an American company, bought the land, wanted to put one there, and when they said no, they sued them for the loss of profits. I mean, that's just what these trade deals make it easy for companies to do. Believe a Canadian mine, and a mine near a lake. And when they got so far away from it, the Canadian government said, no, you're too close to the lake. It's a natural resource. You know, you're not going to have that mine that close to it because you could destroy it. And that company, again, wasn't Canadian, sued the Canadian government.
Wow.
I mean, you give away your rights and give away things that you want, like say stuff for food safety, you give that away, and then they can just sue you for it. I don't think people realize that this is all the stuff you're giving away with these trade deals.
So in other words, if you block my profits for the greater good of the people, I will sue you.
Yes.
Nice.
And McDonald's moving a regional office in Columbus, Ohio, 70 jobs that provided support service to restaurants, like accounting and services like that, moving that to India because McDonald's doesn't have enough profit.
And they've announced that there will be more too.
Again, when's enough? When should you actually do something for the public, like keep these jobs in America?
Yep.
So, man, we are coming to a screeching halt with no good segue. And just want to thank anybody that's downloading this and listening to it. Sean or Mike will give you more information on how to get a hold of us, to send fan letters or hate mail.
And just remember, for those from Local 105, start to wear your green shirts on Fridays. And again, if you want to contact us or listen to us, look us up. Steel Revolution has our Facebook page, as well as you can look us up now on YouTube as well. Also, if you get a chance, take a listen to our friends from Canada on Steel Megaphone. Thanks for listening to number 3.
This has been Steel Revolution. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steel Revolution. Questions or comments, email us steelrevolution105@gmail.com. Steel Revolution is a production of Steelworkers 105, Bettendorf, Iowa. Steel Revolution.